All right, welcome to morning gentle yoga. So we're going to start in a really relaxed position. There's a lot of different possibilities for how you can approach this depending on what props you have at your house. So you could just lay down with no props whatsoever, and that would be okay. If you have some pillows or some blankets, you can create a little bit of a lift. You can even do this with yoga blocks. I'll show you that one in a second. But you can create a little bit of a lift so we get a little bit of a shoulder opening. If you spend some time over a computer, over a sewing machine, or just anytime where it feels like you might, I'm exaggerating a little bit with my body, but kind of let the arms go forward, it's really nice to spend a little bit of time allowing that space to open. So the way that I'm going to do that today is with a really simple blanket. So this is just a striped cotton blanket. It's not particularly thick. This is folded twice at this stage. So thicker blankets you might fold a fewer number of times. What I'm going to do is fold it one more time so that I've got a rectangle, technically, but and then I'm going to fold that rectangle into about thirds, maybe a little bit. Yeah, that should do it. A little bit wider. So it's about, I don't know, 7 inches wide or 8 inches wide or so. And I'm going to put the fringy section on the bottom because that's the most kind of loose and not smooth. And then I'm going to put the folded section where all the little folded edges are. That's going to go down towards my low back. If you have a pillow you want to put under your legs, you can do that as well. Or you can put a block under each knee. Now, if you wanted to use the blocks in place of the blanket, what you would do is put one block under your shoulder blades. My preference is for that to go horizontally, so both shoulder blades rest on it. But some people prefer to sort of put it down the center and have the shoulder blades all the way off, so you can experiment. And then I would put one block for my head, okay? With the blanket, you'll have enough left over at the top that you should be able to kind of fold a little bit more under your head if you want your head to be higher up. If you have a bolster, you can use a bolster in place of the blanket, okay, if you prefer. So I'm going to try to aim my back right down the center of this so that my bottom rib kind of lines up right at the bottom of the blanket. And I can draw this pillow up under my knees a little bit closer. And I'm kind of liking having my head just resting, but I'm going to put a tiny little wrinkle right under my neck. All right, so if I keep my arms close in, then what's going to happen is this is going to mostly take place, this release is mostly going to take place in the deep stabilizers of the shoulder. So that includes the pec minor muscle, which is also helping me breathe nice and deep, and then the shoulder stabilizers on the back of the shoulder that are part of the rotator cuff. So that is not particularly, there's not a lot of sensation because there's not a ton of nerves going to those areas, other than the ones that fire the muscle itself. So there's not a lot of sensory nerves in that area. So the closer we get to the surface of the body, the more we experience those sensory nerves because they're mostly in the fascial layers that wrap around things and under the skin. So if I wanted more sensation, I could take my arm out wide and then I'll feel it through the chest muscle. For me, I'm going to go for this closer in, not worrying too much about the sensation, just trusting the process of my shoulder dropping so that I can get really deep into the joint itself and let that release back into a more neutral posture. Oh, it's sort of like postural realignment is what we're kind of aiming for here. So we're just going to let the arms relax kind of where they would naturally want to fall, unless you're going for the wider arms on purpose, which is fine. And then you can let your legs relax in whatever way is comfortable. If you don't have a pillow, you could let your feet rest on the floor or just have straight legs. Adjust so that your low back is happy. And then we're just going to breathe for a few minutes. We're going to stay for a while just to let everything settle. It's a good chance to meditate a little bit on the breath. noticing like I was carrying just a little bit of tension around my eyes. It's probably because there's sunlight attempting to pierce my eyeball, but I'm going to relax the muscles around my eyes, around my forehead, and sink in a little deeper into the state of relaxation if I can. Relax the mouth and the lips. Stay for about 1 more minute, yogis. Alright, yogis, we're going to take 1 more big breath. Going to let go with a really big sigh. Now to get out of here, I'm going to roll to my side and take this blanket out from underneath me. So if you had other things besides a blanket under you, whatever you've got under there, take that out. And then I'm going to try to shove this pillow off to the side as well. Okay, so now I'm on the mat, a little bit of room here, and I can just notice kind of that sensation that might have been left behind by the blanket or the pillow or the blocks, whatever you had going on there. It feels nice to me to kind of rock a little bit on that upper back, massage the muscles against the floor. We're going to take this position with the legs in a second, but you can just put your feet on the floor and kind of windshield wiper them back and forth at first. Or you can bring your knees in if you want a little back massage that way too. I'm not going to stop you. So then we'll rest the feet on the ground so that the pelvis feels relatively neutral. If it feels like your pelvis is tilting a little too much, your low back is a little arched, try moving the feet a little, see if you can find that place that feels like the pelvis and the rib cage are balanced with each other. So we're going to do some work with the shoulders, but we want the hips and stuff to remain relatively neutral while we're up to this stuff. So first, you want to just make sure you've got enough room for your arms to extend all the way up over your head, okay? So we're going to start by reaching down, and then we're going to move the arms as much as we can through a full range of motion. And each little moment I'm going through this, I'm reaching a little further out. Just feel how the muscle action changes as we do this. Like what muscles kick on as we move the arms through this range of motion. Can you feel how it changes in the shoulders and the arms themselves? Reach down, and then we're reaching up, so we're reaching chest height. We're reaching, starting overhead now. Keep stretching it, keep stretching it. Maybe it doesn't go all the way to the floor, but it goes mostly to the floor. Oh, we'll just keep coming back. So whatever range of motion is appropriate given the circumstances. We're going to do it twice more. Reach through the arms the whole journey. I'm trying to stretch my thumb and my pinky finger up to the ceiling or the wall, depending on what the angle is. Back. Oh, feel those different muscles kicking on to return your arms now. And then one more time. Try to memorize all the sensations and notice if anything feels particularly tight today. Oh, we're going to keep on going until we're all the way back down. Now once your arms are back down, we're just going to pause and let them sort of drift out to the sides. You can even shake them out a little bit. And then feel your arms themselves. Is there any change that's happened since we started? Maybe things have happened, maybe not. So we're going to bring the arms so that they point straight up at the ceiling, or about chest height is essentially the idea. Then you're going to drop your hands. Now, my right arm is on top, so if I look at my arms, that one's the one that's on top. So I'm going to start by holding myself just above the elbow. I'm going to use my right arm to stretch my left arm across, and I'm going to try to let my left arm just stay kind of heavy. And then I'm going to activate the left shoulder blade and really bring that down into the floor, okay? So the first part, the right arm in this case is stretching. I'm pulling my shoulder blade out, getting a really good long stretch on that left arm. Now my left arm is activating, pulling the shoulder blade back under me to come back to neutral against the resistance of my right arm, okay? So right arm is the active arm, left arm is the relaxed arm here. And now left arm is the active arm, and the right arm is just providing resistance, getting that shoulder blade to go back down. Last time, shoulder blade relaxed on the left, pull it across, and then I'm going to really activate that left shoulder as I bring it back. Right arm is providing resistance. Okay, so stretch them out, give them a little shimmy. Can you feel a difference between your two shoulder blades? And then we're going to grab the opposite side. So now I'm holding onto my upper right arm with my left hand. Left arm becomes the active arm. I let the right arm get really relaxed as I pull it across, and now my right arm is going to bring that shoulder back down underneath me against the resistance of this left arm. All right? Hopefully this makes sense. So we're pulling, right shoulder is passive, and then I am, or receptive, and then the right arm is really active, and that left arm is providing resistance, okay? Left hand pulls across. I like the way that feels. And then this is kind of fun to feel yourself really tuck that shoulder blade in like a little wing. Okay, one more time. We're going to stretch it out. And then we're going to try to draw that shoulder blade right up in, snug against the body. Okay, release your arms. Give them a little shake in the air. And then, let them drop. And notice. Mine automatically want to go out a little wider. Just kind of notice the sensations in the shoulders. Ooh, that felt nice. Now we're going to do another shoulder opener in a second, but first let's add our hips into the mix. So we're going to bring the knees up. We're going to do a little bit of core work first. So we're going to keep the shoulders on the ground as best you can. I like to press my elbows into the floor a little bit. We're going to take the legs over to one side, curl them in a little bit, come back over your belly button, go across to the other side, curl them in a little bit. I'm just going to go back and forth. Curl the knees in, go about over the belly button, curl the knees in towards the armpit, over the belly button, curl the knees. This makes me travel down my mat, so just traveling as I go, changing the arms. Curl in, come across, curl in, come across. We're going to do it twice more. Only go as far as your back says is cool to go. So if there's anything that's like, not for me, then don't do that part. Or maybe keep your feet on the ground. So now as I come to the right, I'm going to bring my legs all the way to the right. If I can, I'm going to get my left shoulder to come down to the floor and stretch out through the left arm. Now, if it's available, you can certainly take your left leg and kind of drop it over the top. If that becomes too spicy, stack it back up. If it's still too spicy, take a yoga prop, like your blanket or a block, put that underneath and let your leg rest on that little prop. Okay. We're going to pause right here and just breathe. Kind of pressing my hip a little bit away from my armpit, creating a little bit of like a self-adjustment. Make this side of my waist feel a little longer. 2 more breaths. Now you can keep your feet on the ground and kind of travel back that way, or you can pick your knees up, come all the way back to the center. Pause for a moment. Oh. Give everything a little rinse. And then we'll take the legs over the opposite direction. And then we'll roll that shoulder down toward the floor and give this a nice big stretch. Okay, we're going to take 2 more big breaths. Now, yogis, we're going to go to the side that where our legs are resting. So I'm going to roll to my left. I'm going to use this blanket as a pillow. So I'm going to fold it up. Now you just want to make sure that your arms can extend out in front of you, so whatever positioning you're in your house. So your arms are going to go straight out in front. The arm that's on the bottom for me is the left one, so that one's going to stay. And then I'm just going to position myself so I've got a clean range of motion. And I can take my right arm all the way around and kind of bring it back, okay? So we're going to draw a big circle with the right arm. We're going to reach, and it's whatever range of motion you can accommodate. We're going to come all the way back. Reach out. Now if this downward part of the circle is too tricky, reach out, and right there at shoulder height, just come straight across, okay? Reach, come around, reach, come around. One more time, reach, come around. We're going to come back to the center. Give that arm that was just in the movement pattern a little shimmy. And then we're going to come around the other direction. So now my right arm's on the bottom, and my left arm's going to be the arm that moves. And I'm going to test out my range of motion, make sure I'm not going to smack into the furniture. Okay, I think we're going to be all right. And then we're going to do this movement again. So we're going to take arm reaching out. So I'm trying to stretch the circle a little bit bigger. Reach out. Stretch it a little bit bigger. If you find some little spots that are tender, try a slightly different angle with your arm. See if you can bypass the tender places or slow down in that spot. Go a little more gently, okay? Oh, 2 more of those, yogis. Reach, bring it around, reach, bring it around. All right, give that arm a little bit of a shake. All right, so we're done with the stuff we're gonna do on our back until we get to Shavasana. But we're gonna roll over onto our belly. So, if you would like to, you could start with some little cat shapes. I'm gonna start right here with the little baby cobras. So reaching my legs out, hands under the shoulders, so I'm gonna start up high. And then without using my neck too much, I'm gonna pick myself up and come on down. We're gonna do 3 little cobras that way. Reach through the legs, just a little baby cobra. And then one more time, little baby cobra. Not too much, don't be pushy. Now slide your hands back. So we're not pushing with the arms. All we're doing is lifting as much as the body says is okay to lift off the floor. So we're lifting. It might be a tiny little lift. It's possible that you'll get your whole rib cage off the floor, okay? So it depends on your body. Reach through your legs, lift, keep your head and neck relatively stable. All right, slide the hands back one more time. So now we're about lined up with the ribs. Reach through the legs, lift, come on back down, lift, draw the elbows back if you can, come on back down one more time, lift, excellent, come on back down. Now we're gonna release the arms, we're gonna put them up front, sort of, I Dream of Jeannie style, one arm on top of the other. You can rest your forehead there, and then we're just gonna windshield wiper the legs a little bit. Now, the first option for this pose that we're about to do is just to hold steady in this position, bend one knee and bring the foot as close as you can to your hip. The second option would be to try to hold on to that leg in some fashion. You can also do more of a little sphinx, which is the way that I'm going to start this. So, I like to have a little bit more control over how my knee bends. So I am going to use a strap. So I'm going to put that around my foot, tighten it up so that it stays pretty close, and then I'm going to bring that over my shoulder like this, okay? So then I can push against the strap, so I'm holding myself up in a little bit of a sphinx. I can push my foot against the strap and then lift my thigh, and that way I get this a little stretch on my quads, but my quads my knees not being torqued as much, okay? Because I'm in charge of how much my knee is bending by using the strap. If I hold on to my foot, because of the length of my arm bones, I have only one choice. So it's a little tricky for my knee. So I'm trying to lift my thigh just a little bit off the floor, and I'm feeling that stretch across the front of my hip. Beware of a tendency to tilt to the side. See if you can stay nice and stable through your hips. We're going to hold this for about 4 more breaths. And again, maybe you're just laying, one leg is up and you're not holding that foot at all in any way. So nice big inhale. Now, if you have a hold of your foot, put your thigh down first, and then we're going to gently release the foot. I am going to attempt to put my other foot in this loop, but sometimes I just have to do exactly what I did last time and switch it with my hands. Let's see. Ooh, wait a minute, maybe. All right. So it worked out this time. So I'm going to now let my right leg relax, and I'm not doing a lot of pressure on this left leg yet, but I got my foot in there, which makes me kind of, it's like a trick. It's kind of cool. So now I'm going to let that left foot come toward me until it feels like my knee is good. And then I'm going to keep my hip nice and stable, hold on with the strap, and I'm going to try to lift my right thigh off the floor a little bit. Now, some people can get their thigh quite a bit off the floor. What I find is if I try too hard to lift my foot off the ground, I mostly feel tension, or I feel my hip buckling. So what I'm trying to do is keep my hip flexor nice and long, and still lift my thigh. So it's only going to go so far. Okay, so we're keeping, like, we're working with whatever our body is dishing out. Working with the strap as to how far I want my knee to be away from, or my hip, my foot to be away from my hips, so my knee is happy. I'm breathing. How are you guys doing? Are you breathing? Do you take that as a yes? If you weren't before, now you are. So we're going to do 2 more big breaths. Alright, so I'm going to gently return my thigh to the ground. I'm going to unwind. I'm going to slip this little guy off my foot. And rinse out my thigh. So we're going to come back to that. The strap. We're going to come back to the strap. That'll happen near the end. Alright, so now we're going to take ourselves back to a little child's pose. Or you can do just an all-fours position if child's pose is not your jam. So, I'm going to slip it on back here. I like like a little side-to-side wobble. It helps release any tension I may have developed around my sacrum. I could stay here a long time, but we're going to come to a seated position. You want to throw in some little cat shakes first. Oh, yeah, those do feel really good. You can do a few of those. I'm not going to stop you. And then we'll come to a seated position. Now, for my seated position, I'm going to want my blanket and potentially my strap. So I'm going to keep both of those within range, within reach. I'm also going to tie my hair up because otherwise it might get in my mouth and just become unpleasant in general. Oh, all right, yogis. So we're going to start with the legs stretched out in front of us, and we're just going to take like a relaxed position, and then we're going to do a staff pose. And if you haven't done staff pose before, it might be slightly underrated. So this is also called Dandasana. Now, I don't know if you can see this on the screen, but my hands, when I sit up, do not touch the ground. So some of you will find that your palms will very easily plant themselves on the ground. This is what happens when you're built like Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'm going to extend my fingers like little spiders, and I'm going to place the little spiders down next to me since my palms won't touch the floor. So first I'm going to start with everything really relaxed, okay? Everything's all loosey-goosey and relaxed. And then I'm going to turn this all on. So I'm going to roll my thighs so my toes point up. I'm going to bend the knees slightly and kind of dig my heels in. I'm going to get really tall, draw the shoulder blades back, and I'm drawing my elbows a little bit back and a little bit down to create this kind of structure. Now, be careful about over-poking the ribs. We're just trying to get really tall here. So every muscle is engaged, okay? So my quadriceps are trying to lift my kneecaps up. I'm digging my heels in, so I've got good calf muscle action. So this is an interesting pose because essentially we're using this just eccentric contraction to hold the body nice and stable and create stability in the body. So one more big breath here, and then we're gonna just let it all relax. And can you feel the difference between that really active sitting up and this kind of more passive, like I'm just hanging out, sitting up? So we're gonna do it one more time. And we're gonna do this time, we're gonna do inhale, contract, exhale, relax. Inhale, everything contracts, exhale, everything relaxes, okay? So getting yourself in position, big inhale, everything contracts and lengthens, exhale, let everything relax. Inhale, all the muscles active, can you pick your kneecaps up? Exhale, let it all relax. Inhale, everything active, exhale, let it all relax. One more time. Inhale, everything super active, exhale, everything relaxed. Okay, so now we're gonna work with one leg bent and one leg straight. I'm gonna mostly keep this situation a little bit aligned towards the midline. If you need to take your legs a little wider, you certainly can. Now, for me, I can do this active leg that we did in the staff pose, right? Bend this knee a little bit, lift my kneecap, and then that will help my hamstrings. You may also want to take a little blanket and just slip it underneath the knee. If you have a tendency to hyperextend the knee, that'll give you a little bit of feedback. Just be mindful. Now, you might need the support under the other leg. So what I generally do, if I want to create support with a blanket, is I just pull it through both sides, and then you can tuck it where you need it. You can also use blocks. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to activate the leg. I'm going to lift my toes so they point straight up. I'm going to bend the knee slightly, try to pick my kneecap up, and now I'm going to try to tilt my pelvis forward just to the point where it goes, okay? This is where the strap comes in handy because we're going to lasso the foot. Now there are people who can reach forward and grab their foot and still maintain this tall spine. I find it easier to maintain the spine if I can give myself a little bit more room. So I'm just going to wrap my hands through the strap. I'm going to push on the strap a little bit like I'm pushing on the gas pedal, and then I'm going to use that to sort of lengthen my spine. Now, not everybody's pelvis is going to tilt forward, and especially if your low back is sensitive, you're going to be very mindful. Gather in through your abs. Feel yourself lengthen. This whole body is moving as a unit. I'm not rounding my back to come into this shape. I'm keeping a real active, tall stretch. Okay, so I'm I'm aiming my hips and my head away from one another, hips down, head up, but I'm only going forward as far as my pelvis will tilt. And this is an active way to do the pose. Clearly there are lots of ways to do a yoga pose, but today we're doing this really active version because it helps train our core, it trains us to stay tall, it's really good training for our standing poses. So we're gonna take one more big breath, and then we're gonna release this whole thing, let everything relax, stretch out both legs or bend both knees as the case may be. Can you feel the activity that was happening in that thigh compared to the other thigh? I can right here down this inner line where my quads kind of meld into my adductors. There's a really interesting little place right there where the quads were super active and the adductors were holding my thigh down so it wouldn't roll outward, which it normally does. So just notice what's true for you. Your body might be different than mine. Okay, so we're going to bend the other leg. Again, I might use the strap as a lasso. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get really active and tall. So I'm going to lift. I'm going to, make sure my rib cage is not like poking out in a funky way. I've just got a nice tall shape. I'm going to engage the foot. So I'm pushing on the gas pedal. My knee is a little bit bent. I'm picking up my kneecap. And then I'm going to start to try to bring my pelvis forward. Now, sometimes it helps to lift the sit bone off the ground and then go again. So I'm keeping that tall shape. Very few people on the planet Earth are going to find their chest touching their thigh and keeping their spine as tall and engaged as we are right now. So there might be people out there, but not very many of us. Most of us are going to have a lot more room between the chest and the shin doing it this way. So pushing on the strap, lifting through the breastbone. Maybe the pelvis tilts a tiny notch further forward, maybe not. Finding our way in, staying super active. My neck is relaxed. I'm not overdoing it with the face muscles. I'm really trying to let my body do the work here. So my core muscles are drawn in to hold my spine nice and long. Take one more breath, and then we're going to release the pose. And so mostly what I'm interested in with my yoga practice is trying to get in touch with how, like with as much as I can, like details of my experience. So in this case, the details are physical, right? The physicality of drawing the abdominals, lengthening the spine, of feeling the muscles all engaged, and finding the points where things kind of pause or the limits. But no matter what yoga practice we're doing, we're just bringing awareness to things. And so we're increasing our kind of detailed awareness. We want to get really into the nitty-gritty. In Sanskrit, this is called viveka, which is the kind of ability to really concentrate and apply a lot of attention to our experience. So that's what we're doing. We're practicing moving our body and we're practicing viveka. Okay, so we've got the legs out wide in this instance. And for some of us, this is all that's going to happen is we're going to bend the knees a little bit. We're going to turn the legs on. We're going to try to hold the toes straight up and down, engage through the quads. It's a little bit harder in this position for me to get my kneecap to really lift because of the adductor relationship to my inner quads, but I'm going to work on it. And then we're tilting the pelvis forward. And again, some of us are not going to tilt forward because our pelvis goes that way when the legs are out wide. So bend the knees more and see if you can just get your pelvis to come upright. And it may not. It may not go upright. So we're going to see how far this goes. Right, with my legs a little wider, I have a little bit more room for my pelvis to come forward and I can still keep this lift. Draw in through the sides of the waist, spread your toes apart, lift those kneecaps. It's interesting to do the pose with a lot of muscular engagement. Neck is soft, we're not using the face muscles to create this work. See if we can use the abs. The abs will try to recruit all kinds of muscles in our face to do the work for us. It does not help. 2 more breaths. All right, so we're gonna relax the legs, come all the way back up. And give that whole thing a shimmy. Oh, that was fun. I thought it was fun. Hopefully you thought it was fun too. All right, yogis. we're gonna do one more pose, and this one is gonna be a softer pose. So for those of you whom a rounded back is gonna be problematic, what I would suggest is do this laying on your back instead, because that's where we're going next anyway. So we're gonna bring the feet together in this sort of loose butterfly-like arrangement, so that I've got a big diamond here in the center. This is more akin to the tortoise pose than it is to the bound angle pose. Some people call this star pose. You can call it whatever you like. So I just did this little tilt and moved my sit bones out from under me. So I got my pelvis as far forward as it's gonna go. And now I'm gonna do this in a soft way. So this is the opposite of the two we just did, or the three we just did on each side. And I'm gonna let my back get round. What I'm not doing when I round my back is forcing myself forward. All right, so I'm not pulling on anything. I'm just allowing roundness to occur. And then we use the breath to create the pose. So you're gonna breathe really deep and feel how that deep breath kind of stretches out those low back muscles. We're doing this purely with the breath. I'm gonna let my head hang forward because I like the way that feels in my neck. But again, if that poses problems for you, don't do all that stuff. Okay, we're gonna take one more big breath. Gonna float all the way up. We're gonna let the legs release. Now we're gonna transition onto our back. We're gonna need our strap, so we're taking that with us. And then you can take anything that you need for Shavasana with you as well. So I am gonna take a blanket and put it down so it'll go under my head, and I'm gonna grab my pillow to go under my legs. Ooh. So I'm gonna throw my legs up over my pillow here. I'm gonna work with one and let the other one relax. And then, once I'm on my back, you can adjust any support for your head. You can kind of tuck it up under the edge of the neck, and then just make it nice. Or maybe you want your head a little bit lifted up. All right, so we're gonna bring the right leg in, or you can start with your left, I don't care, but I'm starting with the right. And I'm gonna let my left leg just rest over this pillow, and I'll use the pillow along the way as we go through this. So I'm gonna spin my ankle joint in some circular movements. I'm gonna go the other direction. I'm realizing right this second that it would be better for me to tilt slightly on the diagonal, so I'm gonna fix that in just a moment. So point and flex your foot a few times. Try to get the metatarsals, little bones in the middle of your foot, to stretch out where the toe joints meet. So like right there where your little toe knuckles are, see if you can make that wider. Right through the ball of the foot. Oh, feels good. Okay, so we're gonna lasso this foot. I'm gonna turn diagonally. So I got a tiny bit more room. This is the beauty of a round yoga mat, is I'm still gonna be on the yoga mat. So then you're gonna lasso your foot, and we're gonna extend that leg. So we're gonna go after the back of the thigh first. Now everybody's body is different, and some of us are gonna have a leg that's way down there, and some of us are gonna have a leg that's almost touching the forehead, and then that whole trajectory in between. Now you can hold on to the straps, you can wrap your arm in the strap once. That helps, it makes it a little easier to hold on to if you've got a loop. The loops work. Now, some straps come with like a figure 8 that you can kind of put through and hold with your forearm or your elbow. If you've got a strap with a really long tail on it, you can do this totally hands-free. So you take the strap over the shoulder, in this case my right shoulder because it's my right leg, and then you bring it underneath you so that, I gotta get my hair out of the way, so that it goes across the upper back and comes out the side waist. Then this large bulk of my left shoulder primarily will hold that strap in place, okay? And I can adjust it by pulling on the end to find just right. So you can bend the knee and straighten the leg out. You can rotate the leg a little in, a little out. So we're going to just take a few moments here to explore how the hamstrings are connected. And so, like if I tilt my leg that way, I feel this in my outer hamstrings more. If I turn my leg this way, I feel it in the inner hamstrings more. Bending the knee and straightening the leg a few times feels really good. It doesn't have to be a static position. It really can be sort of a dynamic situation. Some people like to just get in there and feel the stretch and pause. So that's okay too. We're going to take 2 more breaths with this position. Now I'm going to kick my pillow up here so it's kind of angled a little towards my hip. And then I'm going to drop my leg open so it lands on the pillow, because that gives me a little bit of support. I find my inner thighs, especially where they attach at the groin, very sensitive. So this gives me a little bit of support. And again, you can bend the knee, straighten the leg. You can do a little rotation. I don't have quite as big a range of motion with the rotation as I do when my leg is straight up, because we're kind of closer to the hip socket over here on the edge. And so you can play with this little shape. We're going to stay for a bit, about another minute or so. There's a few sports medicine doctors that have done some studies into stretching and whether stretching is really helpful. And what they found through a variety of studies, and it was, there were a couple that were repeated several times, is they found that if we can stay for at least 90 seconds with any modality that you're doing, whether that's a massage or you're in a particular area or you're stretching a particular area, or you're working a particular area, you want to stay for somewhere between 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds, and 2 minutes. So we're going to take a nice big breath, and then we're going to come out of here and go back to our twist, except we're going to do it with the strap. So I move the strap to my waist, or really right around my rib cage, so that as I bring my leg across, it sort of pulls on my rib cage. Then I can work against that to get my shoulder down, and it gives me a really nice twist in my upper back. Okay? So you can hold the strap, or you can get rid of the strap as you like. So in any case, if we stay that long, we move through and get to the other side of this kind of response that the body has when we first start stretching or pulling on the tissue. The body has a response to contract around that so that it will protect itself. And if we're careful and we're nice and we're not being too aggressive, then if once that little initial contraction happens and the body realizes it's not in any trouble, it will then start to lengthen and let go. And we also, that length of time helps encourage hydration in between the layers of tissue. So on our hip, we've got multiple muscles all stacked on top of each other. Gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, quads, hamstrings, other, external hip rotators, all kinds of things all rolling on top of each other. Everywhere you have muscles that touch, you've got layers of connective tissue that can get sticky and can get adhesive. And so what we're interested in with all of our stretching or yoga practice is actually encouraging hydration between those layers. And so it's really in that time, take a big breath, and then we're going to come back around. See how I chatted you up and we went a whole 1.5 minutes and you didn't even know it? Shake out your leg. It's in holding for that length of time that we really get the benefit. So here, let's do a little test. When you drop your legs, whether you're dropping them out straight or you're dropping them in this little arrangement here where they're over a pillow, notice if you feel a difference between the left and right sides. So even with the pillow, it feels like my right hip is lower than my left. If I stick my hands here, they're not different. It's, again, this is sensation. So what's happening? The information is being sent back to my brain from my fascia, from the connective tissue that wraps around those muscles and lives in layers in between, under the skin and above the muscle and in between the muscles. And that fascia is sending back a signal that says, I've been softened, right? Well, maybe not in those words, but that there's a release that has occurred there. It's pleasant, it feels really nice, there's a kind of delightful warmth and lightness to that area. You know, my leg feels that way. So generally, I keep going in this line of thinking, because when I do a stretch for that length of time, I get this really lovely benefit. Now, you can hold things longer. You know, you don't have to just hold it for a minute and a half, but it's a good ballpark for you to do at home, okay? So we're gonna, now that I've lectured, we're gonna take hold of the other leg, give it a little snuggle, we'll spin the foot. Sometimes I like to let you guys in on my methodology, so that when you're working at home, you've got some, you know, knowledge that you can work with. When you're ready, spin your foot the other direction. And then we're gonna point and flex, and again, see if you can get a little movement right there where the toes meet the foot bones. So see if you can spread your toes out right at the knuckles. A little bit of a release across the ball of the foot. Feels so nice. All right. So then we'll give ourselves a little hug, and we'll stretch out that other leg. And again, you'll use whatever methodology with your strap works for you, whether it's holding onto it or doing it a little more hands-free. And if this strap that I've got right here that I'm using is an 8-foot strap. So when you buy straps, depending on where you buy them, that you can get them as short as 6 feet and as long as 12 feet. 8 or 10 can be a little bit more rare, but I like anything between 8 and 12. The 6-foot straps are fine, but they just don't have quite the same range of motion. And if you are like me, you're a little bit tighter, you're built a little more snug and compact, then the a little bit longer strap might be better. Gives you a little bit more possibilities. Like you can tie it into different shapes and stuff like that. So if you're looking at yoga props, you can think about that while you're shopping. So I'm just kind of working with this leg. We're gonna have about 30 more seconds here. Playing with the angles. If I pull my toes down and push my heel up, I get the best sensation through my calf muscles. Oh, it's so good. And then take the pressure off for a second and go back to it. So we're gonna take 2 more breaths here, yogis. One more, and then I'm gonna kind of tuck my pillow in. So I've got a little support for this leg going out to the side. A block will also work, or even I used a rolled up towel before, just enough structure. The closer you put it to your hip, the less height it needs to have in order to provide that little extra bit of support. And again, you're just gonna play with the pose. You can hold it still. You can do it with a little bit of movement. Feeling out all the little places. The places that I avoid are like really sharp sensations, either right at the groin or right at the inner knee with this particular stretch. The adductor is really interesting. So it has connection points that go through the knee joint here, and then in and attached to the pubic bone, and they wrap around and attach. There's certain muscles that go all the way around and attach to your sit bone. So they attach really deeply into the center of the pelvis. And then they go out under the quad and under the hamstrings a little bit, like almost like a diamond. It looks like a sail. And so the muscle, if I can keep it, the sensation right in the middle part of the muscle, that feels really good. When it gets closer to the ends, it feels very sensitive. All right, yogis, we got about 30 seconds left here. So just feeling that out. We got 2 breaths. So big inhale, and then we're going to come across for the twist. And I might run out of room here, so I might bend my knee. Let's see. Oh, we can work with the furnishings. Just push a rock out, right? So I'm going to kind of let my hip come down a little bit, bend my knee, kind of work with the strap to create a little extra love for this outer hip, outer hip gluteal area. Our glutes are way up here. Like around the back, they're a little deeper, but like the big glute that really does a lot of our kind of hip movement or hip stabilization is this guy that lives right up here, and then his little friend next door, and then the big glute, you know, where it kind of where the muscle folds and rolls up under near the near the hamstrings. That glute is different. Like it has different jobs than the muscles up here on the side of the hip. But I really feel these guys when I do a twist. I don't know what you guys feel. Got about 30 seconds left, you guys. Right in here, it's delightful. Maybe yours is tucking under the glute a little bit more into those external hip rotators. It's complicated. Okay, we're gonna take a big breath. We're gonna let go, and we're gonna come back to the middle. So I'm gonna get this strap out from underneath me. Set it off to the side. For just a moment, I'm gonna pull my pillow out so that I can give my legs a little windshield wiper movement. Straighten them out and jiggle them. And then, oh, you guys, it's time for Shavasana. I don't know if you love Shavasana like I love Shavasana, but I think it might be the best yoga pose ever invented, frankly. So, I don't know who came up with it, but they were smart. So we're gonna draw ourselves into a position where we feel relaxed. Now, if you've got like a little eye pillow or something like that, that'll make your room nice and dark, you can use that. If you don't, and you've got a little blanket like I've got, you could take one little layer of your blanket and kind of create a little eye pillow for yourself. So you've got some darkness and a little bit of weight on your eye. There's this really great little yoga eye pillows you can get that have seeds in them that make a nice little weight happen on your head. And then stretch everything and relax everything. And let yourself just float here for a moment. This pose is mostly for our nervous system. So we've been tugging and pulling on our nervous system. We've been asking it to send a lot of data back to our conscious mind. Now is the chance for all of it to just relax. Relax the forehead and your scalp. Let your eyes get a little heavier. So they drop a little deeper into your head. Relax across your cheekbones and your upper lip. Jaw relaxed enough that it gets a little bit slack. Relax your lips. Relax the neck and the shoulders. deeper now. Maybe you just caught the muscles on your forehead tightening up. You can just let those go. Our breath. Take a nice big inhale. Let go with a big deep. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Stretch out your hands and feet. Give your wrists and ankles a little movement. Whole body stretch. And then when you're ready, you can curl back up into a ball shape. And roll to your side when you're ready. You might take a moment there. And then we'll push ourselves up. So thank you so much for joining me for morning time gentle yoga class. Hopefully made you feel nice. Let's take a big breath together. Big inhale and a big sigh. Namaste, yogis. Welcome to the rest of your day and your post-yoga glow.